Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. If we'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this point in time, I'd like to introduce the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission that are here this evening. To my far right is Gina Morgenstein, a alternate on the commission. Next to Gina is Jeff Cohan, commission member. And to my immediate right is James Fitzsimmons, also a commission member. To the far left is Larry Zabrowski, who is an alternate on the commission. Next to Larry is Rocco Mazzarazzo, who is also an alternate. And to my immediate left is Armin Menard, who is the secretary of the commission. At the table to my left is Cynthia Kleist, our recording secretary. Next to Cynthia is Casey Costello, our town planner, and I'm Jim Seichter, chairperson of the commission. Our next order of business is to approve some minutes. First minutes, looking for approval on our minutes of July 11th, 2016. And just a reminder, as far as those members of the commission that were here that evening, or were there that evening, were Mr. Fitzsimmons, Mr. Zabrowski, Mrs. Morgenstein, and also myself. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our July 11th, 2016 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes of the July 11th meeting as submitted.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Morgenstein. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And we're going to move on now to approval of our minutes for our August 8th, 2016 meeting. And again, in that meeting, it was Mrs. Morgenstein, Mr. Zabrowski, and myself. So from one of those individuals, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One correction.
Sure.
I'm missing from the not present list.
You were really missing.
If you could please make that correction.
Yeah.
I'll move that we accept these minutes
With the one notation.
with the one correction of August 8th, 2016.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and our minutes have been approved. Before we get to our first item on our agenda, there's several items that will not be heard this evening. The first item is item number 1, which is a special permit for a retail building with 3 apartments above, with at 902 South Colony Realty LLC. And again, that action, there's no action being requested on that this evening by the applicant. The next item is agenda item number 2, which is a special permit auditorium for the performing arts for Choate Rosemary Hall at 333 Christian Street. Again, the applicant has requested no action to be taken on the application tonight. The next item is new business. Item number 3, a site plan for B. Moslar at 70 North Plains Highway. Again, that applicant has requested that no action be taken this evening. And the final one is old business. Item number 5, a site plan parking lot for Gargano, a limited partnership at 9 and 11 First Street. That application has been withdrawn. So those items will not be heard this evening. Which brings us to our first order of business, which is old business. It's a site plan parking lot expansion for Butler Double Play Cafe, 320 Main Street, Yalesville. If the applicant would please come forward to begin preparing for the presentation. And Mr. Menard, if you would please note all correspondence, additional correspondence for the record.
We have a letter to Mr. George Butler from Casey Costello, dated August 31st, 2016. We have interdepartment referral, dated, submitted 6/1/16/16. This is from the Planning and Zoning, from the interdepartmental referral notice. Environmental planner. And we have a interdepartmental referral
From Casey on this one, on item 4C, again, if we could ask all department heads, if they just put their department or their title down so we know who it's
Yeah,
from.
that's my fault. I forgot to ask them. Yeah.
And that one is from who? 4C is from whom, please?
That is from Steve Godelski, Fire Marshal.
Dated 6/1/16/16.
That's it?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Menard. At last meeting, there were 3 commission members here, Mr. Zabrowski, Mrs. Morgenstein, and myself. We have now 2 other commission members. Mr. Fitzsimmons and Mr. Cohan indicated that they have reviewed the record, reviewed the minutes, reviewed the plans, and they feel very comfortable acting on or participating in the application. So this evening, there will be 5 people that will be voting on this application. Again, Mrs. Morgenstein, Mr. Cohan, Mr. Fitzsimmons, Mr. Zabrowski, and myself. So with that, again, this is a continuation of this application. So if you could please bring us up to speed. There were several items that we discussed at the last meeting. If you could please, sir, just bring it a little bit closer, and I'm not sure if it's turned on or not. I don't think so.
For the record?
There we go.
Okay, my name is Robert Amantea. I'm an engineer and land surveyor with Design Development Group, offices at 458 East Main Street in Meriden. We've made some revisions to the layout of the parking and going it over in detail with Casey and come up with a slightly improved layout for the parking. We are shy of 7 parking places, which with the combination of a restaurant, cafe, and office, they use the peak hours of each one do not correspond to each other. So we don't feel that there would be any problem in the sharing of some of the parking places for peak hour use. We've made some improvements in the landscaping, and there's one thing I'm asking that the commission waive on. Based on the square footage, we need 7 trees to be added. We've added 7 trees. We've put 3 of them, as you'll see, at the southeast corner of the parking lot, which is really in a buffer strip, if you will, for the setback off the Quinnipiac River, as opposed to putting them within the parking lot, only because there's not a lot of landscaped area other than those 3, that area there. So we're adding those parking places. We're adding those trees to an area that really is to remain untouched. If that would, if the commission would indulge us on that, I'm asking for a waiver on that. And that's about it, I guess.
Thank you. I guess I'd ask, before I go to commission members, I know, Casey, you had, several comments in your letter of August 31st. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, those related to the prior plan that you had, and now this is a revised plan, I think after you had a conversation with the applicant either Thursday or Friday, is that correct?
Right. So there are a few conditions of approval that I would like to recommend that Bob and I have talked about, but generally, I'm comfortable with this moving forward.
What were those conditions
Okay.
of approval that you'd like to talk about?
Sorry. One is that dimensions for the landscaped islands be provided. 2 is the conditions of the engineering department from his memorandum dated August 3rd, 2016. 3, you have a water and sewer memo dated June 28th, 2016. Sedimentation and erosion control bond of $500. Sign off or indication that what, or a permit or indication that a permit is not needed from the DOT, which was discussed in my memo. And finally, one thing that I hadn't mentioned to Bob that I just noticed is we don't have the curbing material labeled on here. Do you know what you would plan on doing around the landscaped islands?
I'm not sure if they're going to put in precast or bituminous.
Okay, so that they provide a curbing material on final plans. And then as Mr. Amantea mentioned, there is the requirement for the 7 trees as part of the internal landscaping requirement. So I think the commission will need to make a determination as to whether the 3 trees in the sort of greenbelt area can comply with that requirement.
Okay. Thank you. Commission members for questions for the applicant. Mr. Zabrowski.
Yes, on those trees, the 7 proposed trees, I guess we have a minimum diameter, that's 1.5 inches, if I'm correct, Mr. Chairman?
I believe so. I believe that's the caliper, and I'm sure he's
Yeah.
interested in putting a little larger tree in there.
Probably, but it doesn't give any caliper on those, and,
We can add that on there.
okay, minimum 1.5 inches, you know, it
Correct.
could be.
Well, I
bigger.
think that I don't mean to interrupt you, but I say at least, we should at least have 2 inches there. I mean,
2 inches, well, that's what I was kind of thinking, that, you know, we did bring that up before, that our minimum caliper diameter, I believe, is 2 inches.
Okay, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
No, that'll be noted on the revised plan.
And that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Other commission members? Yes, Mrs. Morgenstein.
I guess I'll be the tree woman in all the Wallingford. So as we're looking at the 7 parking slots that you're missing, and I certainly want you to be able to have your parking, and I don't want to not allow this to happen, but those 3 trees at the way back are more or less already in a green space. And because you're an existing, or not making a major change to the building, that front concrete, we haven't had a requirement to do anything with. But really, when you look at the landscaping of trying to bring the whole place up to looking a little more attractive, is there any consideration for getting rid of some of that front, just solid concrete, and putting a tree or 2 there?
Well, the island is completely within the state right-of-way, and they would not allow a tree within that island.
We're stuck. Okay, that's what I have.
Thank you. Mr. Fitzsimmons, I believe you had a question or 2?
Yeah, just a question actually through the town planner. The proposal on the plan says 7 trees, and you said that we might want to have a conversation about the 3 trees. Can you further detail that for me?
The requirement is from section 6.14 in your regulations, which is your landscaping section, and there's a requirement for internal landscaping. And there is a certain amount, Mr. Amantea has noted it on the plan, sort of in the bottom left-hand corner. So there's 10 square feet of internal landscaping per parking space required, and then 1 tree for every 10 spaces. And along with that is the requirement that each island have a tree. So each island does have a tree, but all 7 trees aren't internal exactly to the parking lot. Now, part of that is because the calculations for the landscaping are based on all of the parking spaces, but the landscaping is only being provided in the rear because the rest was grandfathered in. So it is sort of tighter in terms of where trees might fit, but I think the request, or I think Mr. Amantea's position is that those trees would be allowed to count as internal landscaping. Typically, we require them to be actually within the islands within the parking lot.
Yeah, this is a mature site, so I could agree with the applicant's request to count the 3 back trees as part of the overall landscaping, because it's a mature site with a improvement revision for parking. So nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. Other commission members? Yes, Mr. Cohen.
I just had a real quick question. The rear of the parking lot, is there anything other than a curb to prevent folks from, parking in that green belt, so to speak?
Actually, where the existing pavement ends now, there's 4 or 5 shrubs, fairly mature shrubs. We're moving those over to the north property line because they're good enough to save. If you want, we could put them along this green belt. The reason we're not putting trees along that northerly property line is because there's a sewer easement, and it wouldn't make sense to put a tree on a sewer easement. I mean, if you wish, the small shrubs wouldn't be a problem, but if you wish, we could put relocate those existing shrubs along the southeast boundary of the parking lot, if you will,
How do folks feel about that?
which provides a little bit more of a buffer, a natural buffer, so somebody wouldn't drive over it.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I'm not opposed.
Works for me.
Thank you.
Other commission members? Casey, any final comments?
Just one more comment, or one more condition I realized I didn't mention. We need, the aquifer protection area line that's noted on here, I believe, and the Water and Sewer Division said the same thing, that that line might not be consistent with the mapped line, so we would just ask that as a condition that Mr. Amantea confirm the location of that line.
Okay. This is not a public hearing, but we do give the members of the public an opportunity to speak on an application. Any members from the public who would like to speak, please come forward, name and address.
Vivian Jones, 8 Windswept Hill Road. I'm just wondering, this is already an existing
Excuse me?
business. This is already an existing business? Correct?
Yes, it is. They're looking to simply expand their parking
To
lot.
expand the parking lot. So he already has an accurate approved site plan, and he's just coming now for approval to enlarge the parking? Is that?
He has a site plan that was, I believe it was approved, correct, Casey? Otherwise,
I don't know how much of this predates zoning
Zoning.
and how much of it was approved as part of a site plan, but there have been approvals over the years for the uses and the layout.
So basically, anybody starting a business or a newer business would have an approved site plan already, and he's just asking for an expansion, right?
he's looking for an expansion.
And then the buffer area of the trees that you're speaking about, is that just for looks? And I know it's for the environment, Gina, but I mean, is it just for looks, or is it also, when we're looking for buffering with businesses, are we also looking to protect the rest of the area from seeing traffic or seeing?
No, in this
vehicles?
particular case, again, you can answer that, but it's not really for, if you're looking for a buffer or to put some type of screening or something like that, that's not the purpose of this. And if you'd like to expand upon that, Casey.
Sure. There are a few different requirements that apply here. One is there's a 100-foot green belt requirement off the Quinnipiac, so off of the Quinnipiac, and that's really for environmental reasons. So 100 feet off the Quinnipiac, you're not supposed to disturb at all. That's supposed to stay green. And then there are separate landscaping requirements depending on if over 30 parking spaces are required. There's some internal landscaping and then some landscaping around the edges. And also for a new site, in this case, they're grandfathered in the front, but for a new site, you have to put landscaping up front too. And that addresses a couple of different issues. One is stormwater management and rainwater management. One is provision of green and provision of trees, so for other environmental purposes. One is for aesthetics, and the area around the parking lot is typically also used as a screening area, the 5 feet around the parking lot.
All right, thank you. I was trying to determine if a buffer meant for just the environment or
Sure.
for how the building looks to people, or if it meant actually also screening
Sure.
from everyone else. So the parking spaces goes by the square footage of the building, or it goes by the square footage of the building?
It's by the use.
The type of use, you mean?
Yes, the type of use.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other members from the public? Seeing none, Casey, I'll just bring it back to you if you have any final comments.
Nope.
Mr. Menard, I see you.
Is that where the walkway is going to be coming through?
For the linear trail?
Right.
I don't believe so, no.
It's not going to be on that side of the river?
It is on this side of the river, but not in this area, I don't believe. I believe it's further south.
Yeah, but eventually it's going to come out through there.
I don't think it's walking all the way up. It looks like Ms. Morgenstein could answer that.
My understanding is that the walkway into the linear trail fire island is on that condo's property.
Yes,
This
it
is
is.
much to the south of that.
It's down the hill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a good half mile south.
yeah.
I mean, French, the linear trail is already,
there.
it's already past this property. I mean, it's farther east of this property.
There's been discussion about another crossover, but when they do that, that still won't impact this property if that's done.
That's a long distance away. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Fitzsimmons.
When I read the minutes from the August meeting, we talked about, it was mentioned in the minutes about giving time for the town engineer to talk about with the applicant. Do we have updated comments from the town engineer?
Don't have, there were the August 3rd comments, which we received right before the meeting. And I believe I know that Mr. Amantea has had conversations with the town engineer. And my understanding was that, in speaking with the town engineer, that the new catch basin that's being provided is sufficient. And that's where the condition that if it were to be paved, the new catch basin would be put in, but we do not have comments in writing.
So do we want it to be a condition that we get final sign-off from the town engineer, or just his comments of 8.3 stand as conditions?
I think if you allow his comments to stand, then
Okay.
anything that wasn't addressed from then would remain.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. If there's no other comments from the commission, I guess the applicant would like to make any final comments.
No, that's about it.
Okay, thank you. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I move the commission approve a site plan for a bar restaurant to expand the existing parking lot at 320 Main Street as shown on plans entitled Site Plan Prepared for George Butler, TM, 49, Lot 65, 320 Main Street, Wallingford, Connecticut, dated May 11th, 2016, revised to 9/10/16, subject to the following conditions which must be entirely satisfied prior to any work being done on the subject property. Condition number 1, comments of the Town of Wallingford Town Planner dated 8/31/16. Number 2, comments of the Town of Wallingford Water and Sewer Senior Engineer dated 6/28/16. Number 3, comments of the Town of Wallingford Town Engineer dated 8/3/16. Number 4, posting by the applicant in an S&E bond in the amount of $500 as recommended by the Town Planner. Number 5, applicant to provide written verification with the Connecticut DOT regarding no need for additional permit for the application. Number 6, applicant to provide building material for wheel stops to be provided on final plans. Number 7, tree caliber of new trees to be 2 inches as noted at this meeting and to be included in the final plan. Number 8, applicant to include ground planting along the rear property line has discussed at this meeting and agreed by the applicant's representative. And finally, condition number 9, applicant to provide final confirmation on final plans of the floodplain line has discussed at this evening's meeting.
Do we have a motion on the application? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohan. Voting beginning with Mrs. Morgenstein.
Yes.
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 Yes. Your application's been approved. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Casey, that brings us on now to our number 6. It's a survey waiver request for waiver survey requiring for A. Scotto through Partridge Run. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is not here. Do you want me to go through it with you?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay. What they are proposing to do is to build basically a pergola sort of overhang or roof over their patio adjacent to their house. It's an existing patio, and it does not extend beyond the existing wall of the, it's not closer to the side property lines than the existing house.
And I take it, just so we're all clear on this map that was given to us, the property that we're talking about is that .43 acre parcel that's 16/3?
Yes, the one in, yep.
And then where it's sketched in, and then there's the asterisk, that would be the concrete patio and where they want to put the pergola. And what's the, I mean, it certainly looks like they're not encroaching on any setbacks, but what's the back setback?
The rear setback there is 30 feet in
Okay.
an R18. And the sides are 20.
20. Any commission members have a question on the application? Or let me ask you this, do commission members feel comfortable moving forward with the application in view of the fact that the applicant's not here?
I'd like to have a little more detail on this. This is a pretty well planned out area, and the homes are very nice in that area. And just to put up something of this nature, again, we don't control, you know, as far as what beauty might be, but certainly, you know, I think I see a sketch on a plan here. We don't know what type of roofing he's going to use, and it could be, you know, a concern for the neighbors if this is going to, you'll be able to see this from like 4 of the neighbors on the other side of, in the back side of the house, and the neighbor just adjacent on Partridge Run.
So just to clarify, that the request is for a waiver of the requirement for a survey. So the survey is typically what's used to determine whether or not they're close enough to the property line. Beyond that, the only thing that they would need would be a building permit from the building department. So it doesn't change the fact that they are required to be the required distance away. It's whether or not they have to hire a surveyor to verify that distance.
Okay, I understand. All right, thank you.
Again, just getting back to, I guess, my first question, if commission members feel comfortable moving forward on this application, even though the applicant's not here. From my perspective, I feel comfortable with it. Other commission members?
Agree.
That being the case, any comments the commission members may have on the application before I request a motion on it? Seeing none, if there's any members from the public, seeing no interest from the public, or no members of the public that would like to comment on the application, I'm sure they have a very severe interest. But at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. The commission agreed to a waiver for the survey requirements as requested by A. Scotto at 3 Partridge Run.
We have a motion on the application. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohan. Voting beginning with Mrs. Morgenstein.
Yes.
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 Am I? No. Me too?
No, Mr. Minogue.
That was it.
Yes.
And yes. If you indicate to the applicant the application's been approved. All right, Casey, if you would take us through the The rest of the agenda, please.
Okay, the bond release request, item number 7, is for a house at 326 High Hill Road that is ready to be released.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission release the bond being held on behalf of Hazelwood at 326 High Hill Road as recommended by the town planner.
Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on.
Okay, item number 8, your October meeting date, I wanted to raise it. Monday is a holiday, so the meeting is moved to Wednesday. Usually, I check holidays pretty carefully when we develop the meeting schedule, but it was asked about a couple of times. There is a Jewish holiday that starts Tuesday night at sundown and ends Wednesday night at sundown, and so at first, I had thought that that wouldn't be a conflict, but in thinking about it further, people, may have various celebrations and obligations. So I wanted to see if you'd like to reschedule that.
Guess I'd open this up to commission members. Fortunately or unfortunately, from my standpoint, I will not be able to make any meetings in October after the 12th. Until the end of the month, until the 30th. So, other commission members? Yes, Mrs. Morgenstein.
So the high holidays, Tuesday to Wednesday, my husband was one of the people that insisted the town council cancel their meeting, so I think it would only be appropriate to reschedule.
So I guess at this point in time, I'd ask for some convenient dates for members of the commission. First of all, Casey, do you have any suggestions?
Well, I was going to suggest that we move it to Thursday the 13th, but if you're not available.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be available. I'm going to be out of the country all month.
Okay, so for the rest of the commission, would Thursday the 13th work?
That work for everyone?
As of today, yes.
Council.
I think we've just been informed the council has
That's the
moved
day
to
the
the
council
Thursday the
moved.
13th.
Oh, okay.
You want to go to the 6th? Can we go earlier?
Well, I mean, the holiday starts on a Tuesday.
It's the 24 hours after sundown Tuesday, so it goes till sundown Wednesday.
But we're meeting on Monday.
No, Monday
No,
is
no.
Columbus Day.
Monday is Columbus Day.
So you'd already moved once.
Sorry.
Can we go to the
Could
6th?
we,
I got all these equations here. Okay.
Mr. Fitzsimmons asked if we could go to the Thursday, correct? Thursday the 6th? Does that present issues, Casey?
Let me just check on the.
Does that work?
I have a conflict with the charter, but I'm an alternate, so if other people
Oh, that's right,
can.
too.
Yeah. Oh, you too, yeah.
That's right.
Third?
We have chart, it's, Gina, it's
Fourth and sixth.
4th and the 6th.
Yeah,
Oh, so.
it's really tight.
10-3?
The
how does
Monday.
It's the first Monday?
Casey, Monday the 3rd.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that would work from.
Yeah, from a timing standpoint?
Yeah. 3rd. Yes, we could do that.
Does that work for everybody for October 3rd? It's the first Monday of the month.
Again, it probably doesn't work for me, but again, I'm an alternate, so I can. I'm just, yeah.
Jeff? For the
Yes,
mo-
I
I'm sure
agree.
your schedules sometimes
Yeah,
can be in
I-
flux, but for the
right now,
moment,
that's
it
fine.
it works for you. Okay. Casey, let's put this for Monday, October 3rd.
Okay, so if I could have a motion to cancel the meeting scheduled for October 12th and to schedule a special meeting for Monday, October 3rd at 7 o'clock.
And if I could have a motion on that, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission cancel our meeting scheduled already for Wednesday, October 12th, and reschedule it to a special meeting on Monday, October 3rd.
We have a motion on that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, Casey. Moving on.
Okay, and along the lines of meeting discussions, while we're sort of on that topic, I did hand out to you some updated language regarding the CA6 parking conversation that you've been having, parking discussion that you've been having. So I was hoping that we could discuss scheduling another workshop to talk about that. And I wanted you to have that so that you could review it between now and whenever we schedule the meeting for.
Okay. And again, with that, if we could look at our schedules to see what might be convenient for, for us to, for everyone. I would like, if at all possible, and I realize this is somewhat of a short notice for everyone, it would be nice if in fact we could arrange to have something the latter part of this month. Again, not knowing what people's schedules look like. Yes, Ms. Fitzsimmons.
Is it possible, I mean, we got one receipt for next month. Is there a lot of hangover from the people we aren't hearing, so we couldn't do it the 3rd?
Yeah, I thought about that. I mean, you have 3 carries over.
That's it, okay.
For a
Yeah.
while. Yeah, I think if we could
Okay.
perhaps schedule a separate workshop, because I think at least 1 or 2 of the applications that were not necessarily, yes, they were carried over, may take a little more time. And I don't think then we perhaps give this, the CA6 zone, its justice.
At the 26th?
Looking at the 26th, for everyone, how does that look? And I'll go out to the audience, Mr. Di Natale. Okay, so if we could schedule that for, at 7 o'clock on Monday, the 26th.
Okay.
What's the agenda for that? Is it downtown?
It would be it would be what we, kind of picking up on the CA6 and the parking.
Right. And so what I provided you tonight is sort of building off of the conversations you've had so far. Anything in that's highlighted in yellow is either something that we haven't talked much about. Primarily, that was the parking design, which is largely lifted from your incentive housing zone. And then there were a few numbers or things that I wanted to sort of point your attention to or ask you to think about. But I've addressed a lot of what we talked about last.
Okay, good, and I thank you for providing that to us this evening. And Casey, if you would just continue, please.
Sure. Okay, item number 9. If you remember, this is for a possible partial refund of application fee for George Hart Infinity at 1076 South Colony Road. If you remember at last month's meeting, there was a special permit applied for that involved the very large flagpole for George Hart Infinity on South Colony Road, and I had sort of determined shortly prior to the meeting that I didn't believe they needed a special permit because that's exempted by the building height definition in the regs. They opted to look for sort of a decision. Anyhow, the commission determined that that you concurred that it did not need an approval, so I told them that I would put it on the agenda to see if you wanted to refund part of that fee. The fee was $550.
Commission members, any discussion on that? I guess from my perspective, I don't have a real issue with that. From a review standpoint, there was not very much time, if any, I won't say if any, but there was very little time put in by the planning department after you made them aware that, in fact, they did not need to file. So
Right.
I would support, refunding, 50% of the fee. Other commission members?
That's fine.
Go along with that.
Guess we need a motion on that. Is that correct, Casey?
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission issue a partial refund for the application fee submitted by George Hart Infinity for their recent application to 50% refund.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? And moving on, Casey.
Okay, item number, I guess, 9B, administrative approvals. You had a change of use at 29 North Plains Highway for retail use. A change at 5 Brookside Drive, that was to decrease the amount of warehouse space, increase the amount of office space for the user. And then a small freezer addition for the gas station at 315 North Colony Road. Do we have any questions?
Questions, commission members? Yes, Mr. Cohan.
Casey, what, on 9C, the grocery store, what was that used for again?
They're adding they want to add a freezer off the back of the building.
Okay, because, yeah, when I got that, I kind of questioned what they were going to use it for, and
Yeah.
so,
It's,
okay,
it's for their freezer.
thanks.
Thank you.
What,
Yes,
Sorry.
Mr. Matarazzo.
what was the change of use for 29 North Plains?
From storage to retail.
Retail or office?
Is that in Phoenix Park?
I believe it's the one on the corner of North Plains Highway and North Plains Industrial Road.
Phoenix Park,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Across from the P&A.
Yeah. What sort of retail, do we know, or is it, doesn't matter?
It's used items and e-cigarettes.
Used items and, I didn't hear.
And e-cigarettes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Moving on.
Okay, item number 10, I just provided this for your information. We have to provide a yearly update to the state, the Department of Housing regarding your incentive housing zone. It's kind of boilerplated for us, but I just wanted you to know that was done and have it for your information. Okay. Item number 11, ZBA decisions of August 15th. There was a variance request that was for side yard setback for a garage that was approved, and a variance request for creation of an additional lot, which I had discussed with you at the last meeting, and you did express the wish to issue a report to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that one did get denied. Okay, item number 12 is the ZBA agenda for this month. I think that since there are several items on there, I'll leave it up to you if you have any particular requests. I would point out item number 8, just because it's sort of interesting. As part of the solar panel approval that was granted several months back by the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special exception for the Meriden-Markham Airport solar panels, there was a little bit of an issue because Wallingford, we require all the utilities to be undergrounded because they're feeding into the Meriden electric provider, which is different than the Wallingford electric provider, and because of some of the design that they had planned, there is proposed to be a little bit of above ground electric wires and poles. Those will be all on the private property, so they had to apply for a variance for that.
Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Just a point of clarification, Casey. If I were to read this in the paper, on the legal notices, and I know people who read legal notices, it says variance request from Venel. Who's Venel? Because wouldn't the applicant be either the city of Meriden or Eversource Utility?
Anyone can be the applicant. I believe in this case, this applicant is from Solar City. But we can, typically what we do is we'll put in parentheses next to it the name of the organization or what they represent, so I can make sure that we are doing that.
If you think about it, someone's going to
Yeah.
read it and go, well, who are these,
Who's this person?
French, you can almost hear the question coming. Well, who's that getting, So
Yeah.
it should
Yeah.
clarify exactly
Absolutely.
who's requesting it.
Absolutely.
So Solar City is going to be the owners and operators of it?
They're the applicant, they are the installation company, and they, I believe, they are the owners of the utility on the Wallingford side.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other commission members with any comments, questions on the ZBA agenda for this month? Seeing none, Casey?
Okay.
Moving on.
Item number 12 is your zoning enforcement log. As usual, I will defer to you for any questions, comments, et cetera.
Commission members with any questions on the ZBA, rather the
Did I
zoning
say 12?
enforcement log?
Item number 13, yes, I'm sorry.
To be correct, 13B. Anyone with questions? None?
I guess my only question, and again, maybe I'm behind, so some of them have names and some of them do not. Is that just a clerical thing?
In terms of the person name?
Right.
The last name?
Yeah, so I mean, we have street names, some have the actual house street, some do not. So like if I wanted to go by and see where these junk vehicles, trash are on Center Street.
Yeah,
I
some of the
really
streets are
can't.
missing. Yeah, that's a clerical issue that I'll have them
Yeah.
address for next
Because I
time.
think it would be useful to really,
Yeah.
you know, see what's up. Thank you.
Absolutely. And if you ever do have questions or anything, our printout comes out more detailed than this, and we're happy to provide that to you with notes.
Okay. I think with that, it brings us, just before, I ask for a motion to adjourn, just one thing, Casey, if you could, in the next, the next month to 2 months, if you could look at the Plan of Conservation and Development and look at the items for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and if you could provide to us some suggestions as far as, those items that would be, most appropriate to begin looking at. So if we can start to put together an outline for us for the next year, the next 2 years, what have you, on the Plan of Conservation and Development, those items that, the Planning and Zoning Commission is looking to tackle.
Yep.
If you could give us some, some suggestions on how to proceed with that, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And along those lines, just so everyone knows, I believe it's for tomorrow night's council agenda is the formation of the POCD implementation committee.
And were you able to get for me the names of everybody?
Because we will have them after tomorrow night, once they take the vote.
Okay, so they haven't provided you with
The list?
the list?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It's not a big secret.
Channel 20.
Just interested. Any other items that commission members would like to bring up before I, yes, Mr.
Yes, I would, Mr. Chairman, and this isn't the first case. People come before us and they say they're going to do things and then they walk away and they don't do them. In our minutes of Monday, July 11th, on page 3, I made a comment that in the photos that they provided for that car repair place, that I didn't see any trees. And she says, yeah, there's trees there, and we'll provide a total of 5 along Barker Avenue. I went by there this weekend, and there's 2 trees in there, and the caliper is, I'll be generous and say if it's 3/4 of an inch, and one of them is dead, and one of them is...
Which application are you talking about, first of all?
I believe he's talking about the car repair on Atwater and Barker.
Yeah, Valentine.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do have 5 years.
I'm going to see, what's their time frame to do
To
that?
complete their site plan application. They do have to, he did have to post a bond with us until they complete the work. So he actually did do a fair amount of the work, but he does have some time left before we can force anything.
So he has 5 years to put in the trees.
Everyone has 5 years under state law to complete their site plan.
Okay. And then they're aware of the 2-inch caliper?
Yes, that was shown on their final revised plans. But I can take a visit over there and remind them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oops, sorry. I just had a question for the rest of the chair of the commission in regards to commercial properties, new development along Colleen Road. I brought it up with Casey and thought it'd be a good idea to bring it up here. If anybody thought it was worth pursuing possible regulation changes as far as new development of commercial properties along Colony Road, Route 5. Having them be required to face buildings, entryways towards Colony Road or Route 5, rather than sideways or, I don't know if that's something worth.
That's something members of the commission would
Discussing?
like to discuss at some point in time?
I would agree.
Okay.
Although we did approve one already, that didn't
I
have
think that
a-
that's
Well,
why.
that's hence the
that's
reason
why-
I'm bringing it up.
I think
Well-
that's the genesis of the question.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't, I mean, we approved that one, so I mean, it wouldn't be retroactive. I mean, it
No,
wouldn't
no, of
affect
course.
that particular project, but it would be something that Casey would inform them as their development goes forward.
Well, they're not, well, let's just stop here. I mean, we're not, if
On
we,
the-
ch-
on-
if we,
on
if
new
we,
stuff.
if we, ch- yeah, this is for anything that's new. What we've approved, and the way the
Right.
building is situated is the way the building's situated, and that's their approved plan. I think what,
Correct.
yeah, what Rocco's looking at is,
Moving forward.
you'd
In the
voiced,
future.
you'd voiced the concern about that, and to have the orientation of the building changed, so the front of the building is facing Route 5, and it appears that commission members would be interested in doing that. I guess the bottom line is, Casey, that it doesn't seem like we would really need a workshop on that.
No.
So how would you suggest that we go forward
And
with that?
actually, I have a list of, I sort of keep two lists, some things that need greater discussion as proposed changes, and then some things that are sort of more either fixes or administrative or something that's easily modified. So since what I will do for you for next month is maybe bring you a list of those, and then you can decide which ones you want to schedule for a public hearing for November.
Yeah, we
we
just,
can go from
just
there.
kind of take the low-hanging fruit, the
Yeah,
items, like,
exactly.
again, like with Mr. Matarazzo
Yeah.
mentioned, I think that's something that doesn't need a workshop on.
Right, yeah.
And if there's other items like that that you've seen over the past, that would certainly be very, I think, very beneficial. If we all agree on that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. That being said, if there's no other business, gee, we're going to make it before 8 o'clock. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Moving on, we're adjourned. Thank you.